everyone, I'm Danielle Jensen, the Mom Ambassador Liaison at Moms Meet. Thank you for joining us today for the Heel Reboost webinar, where you'll hear directly from Jamin Busick, the Key Account Manager at Heel. Jamin will be talking about homeopathic solutions, why Heel products are such a great choice for you and your family. If you have any questions during the presentation, please be sure to type them into the chat window, and we'll take some time at the end to answer all your questions. With that said, Jamin, please take it away.
Thank you, Danielle, and thank all of you for coming today. We really appreciate you taking your time out and giving us your attention. We worked with your group in the past on our allergy products, and what a powerful group Moms Meet is. We had some really amazing feedback, some positive response, and some excellent synergy. So we are actually very honored to be here in front of you again. So thank you. Thanks again for taking your time. So today we are going to cover our Reboost, which is our cold and flu line. We've got a really cool presentation put together for you, though. It's not just on the products. Actually forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jamin Busick, and here's my mug shot so you can put a face to the voice. I've been with Heel now 10.5 years. So the first 8.5 years with our company, I actually worked in our practitioner channel where I sold these products to doctors who would recommend them to their patients. The last couple of years, I'm, as Danielle mentioned, what's called a Key Account Manager, which is kind of like the person behind the scenes that works with all the logistics and distributors and retailers to make sure that these products are actually sitting on the shelf when you go to your store. So that's what I do now. My absolute favorite part of this job and what's kept me here entertained and actually very happy for 10.5 years now is working with these products, talking about them, using them on my friends and family, and training on them. They're phenomenal formulas. They work very well. We don't hurt anybody, so it's a really positive thing. And again, it's kept me entertained for 10.5 years now. So again, we're going to do a nice kind of a more comprehensive training before we jump into the products. I want to teach you about how Heel came to be, how homeopathics are regulated. We'll do a quick history recap on on how the idea of homeopathy came to be in the first place, and then we'll jump in and we'll go through the 4 products that you see here in front of you. All right, so on with the show. So how did Heel start? Well, Heel was founded in 1936 by this German medical doctor, Dr. Hans Heinrich Reckewig. He had just started his practice, and he was using drugs and surgery to treat his patients, just like his peers. Well, something happened early on in his practice where his father became very sick and was treated and cured by a homeopathic physician. Well, this made Dr. Reckewig very curious. He said, this guy fixed my father. I'm very interested. What is homeopathy? I need to learn everything about it and start using it on my patients. So that's exactly what he did. He learned everything he could. He started using what we call classical homeopathy, which is one ingredient at a time. And the classical homeopathic approach has very, very strict rules that you only use one ingredient at a time to treat people. Well, Reckewig had 2 things happen to him. Initially, he fell in love with homeopathy because he could make his patients feel better and not worry about hurting them. It was a very docile, very safe approach. The next thing that happened is he became somewhat disenchanted because he figured out that using one ingredient, you didn't always get the results you were looking for. So he stopped and thought, and he said, you know what? Human beings are very complex. The diseases that are causing these symptoms that are bringing patients into my practice are very, very complex processes. I don't care what the rules say. I'm going to combine multiple ingredients. And that's what he did. He made these combination formulas, and guess what happened? They worked. They worked very, very well. His patients were getting better. He was having great results. His patients started talking to each other and tweeting and posting on Facebook. And I'm just kidding. They didn't have that back in the 30s. But something very interesting back then, it's kind of hard to relate to this now, but people actually talked to each other. They actually looked each other in the eyes and had conversations instead of just texting and Facebooking. But anyways, all joking aside, there became a buzz in his community of these people talking to each other, and they got better by Dr. Reckewig. Other doctors became curious, and they wanted to try to use these combinations on their patients in their practice. Well, long story short, there became such a demand for his formulas that he was forced to open a company to supply that demand. Pretty awesome, right? I love that story. I love when somebody starts out with good intentions. He just wanted to treat his patients. You fast forward 77 years later, we're a pretty large combination company. We're distributed in 50 countries around the world. So excellent story. I love how we began. So on to something you might not know is that homeopathics, we're not a food and we're not a supplement. We're actually regulated by the FDA as a pharmaceutical drug, and we have been since we got grandfathered into this act in 1938. What that means is that everything we do, everything you see on our packaging, everything you see on one of our brochures, our website, this presentation, and all the words that are about to come out of my mouth have to be routed through our QA department and approved to ensure that we are following these rules on how to market homeopathic drugs. It means we have to be on label. We have to be able to back up everything we say, which also means for you that, you know, we just met, but if you don't believe me yet, know that you can, because everything I'm about to say is true. It has to be. That's the rules. The other thing in producing these formulas, we have to follow these very strict guidelines called good manufacturing practices, and these processes and procedures that are outlined by the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, which is like this governing body. And it's very, very specific. I mean, how long was something mixed? How was it stored? How long did it dry? There's batch records on who touched it, who processed it, who checked it, stability testing, microbial testing, heavy metal testing. You name it, the list goes on and on and on and on. It's a ton of work for us, but what it means for you is that you're always going to get quality products. You're going to get consistent products. There's never going to be a bad batch or anything like that. It's very, very highly regulated. It's a full-blown pharmaceutical operation here in Albuquerque that we run, and it's very, very impressive. So that is how we started and how we're regulated. Let's go back in time real quick. We're going to go back 2,000 years to the beginning thoughts of this homeopathic approach. Back to Hippocrates, you know, the father of modern medicine, first do no harm, that guy. Excuse me. And even further back than that, Paracelsus. They were onto these interesting ideas. One of them was you can treat disease with the thing that causes it. The other really interesting concept is the dose determines the poison. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that a substance excuse me, a substance is not toxic or therapeutic because of what that substance is, but it has to do with the dose or the concentration. I'll give you a crazy example. You can overdose and die from too much water. On the other hand, you could take a very small dilution, a very, very small concentration of rat poison, arsenicum album, which is white arsenic, which is used in homeopathy, at say a 1 in a billion concentration, and it has indications for skin irritation. So it's not the substance that makes something toxic or therapeutic, it's the concentration or the dose. Well, you fast forward 1,700 years, there's another German medical doctor named Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, and he's super disenchanted with what him and his peers, his doctor buddies, are calling medicine. Back then, when you went to the doctor with a fever, they would put leeches on you. They might even cut you open and let some blood out to purge the evil. Hahnemann thought it was unnatural and barbaric. And just like every other genius that's ever changed the world, he said, there's got to be a better way. He's reading, he sees these notes from his predecessors. The dose determines the poison. He becomes infatuated with that. He starts focusing on, okay, it's got to be about the dose. So how do I experiment with dosing? The long story, but the short version is this. He grinds up some bark from a tree and makes cookies with it. So he's got this big dose of this ground up bark. Well, he also took some of that ground up bark and put it in some alcohol, and then took a drop of that and put it in some alcohol, and then took a drop of that and put it in some more alcohol. He's got a big dose and he's got a little itty bitty tiny dose. He eats the cookies. He starts to feel terrible. He gets a fever, delirium, chills, all these horrible symptoms. And when he's at his worst, he takes the little tiny drop of a drop dose, and all of a sudden his symptoms start to subside. He starts coming down and starts to feel better. And he says, well, I'll be darned, this is pretty interesting. I can treat bark symptoms with bark. I wonder if I can treat those same symptoms in another human that didn't eat the bark with me in the first place. So where do I find people that have fever, chills, delirium, sweats? Well, back then, malaria was a very popular disease, and those folks have those same symptoms. Hahnemann goes out with this drop of a drop of a drop of this bark that caused all those symptoms in himself and ends up having really good results treating these patients that didn't eat the bark because they had malaria and had a nice track record of doing so. So you can see he didn't have to have the exact thing. He didn't have to dilute malaria. He just had to dilute something that would cause similar symptoms in a healthy person, which is basically the big fundamental rule of homeopathy. Is called like cures like. Small amounts can help what large amounts would cause. Hopefully that makes sense. What's really cool about this homeopathic approach is it kind of works the way your body works, right? These things don't actually suppress anything. What they do is support your body's own healing mechanisms. We all know from growing up, you get a cut, well, what happens? It heals itself. You twist your ankle, eventually you fix yourself. That's how your body works. It's fascinating and it's awesome. And that's how it should be. You shouldn't suppress those things. You shouldn't block those processes, but you should just support them. So now we're going to get into some of the seasonal type stuff before we get into the products. I want to let you guys know that so far in 4 slides, we've covered 2,000 years of history, and you now know more about homeopathy than probably anybody that you've ever met. So go ahead and give yourself a little pat on the back, a little happy dance. Awesome. All right, so cold and flu season. The main symptoms that we see, or we've all experienced these, nasal congestion, sneezing, runny nose, your sinuses are swollen shut, general other types of sinus misery, are caused typically by a virus. You get a viral infection, your body launches a response like it's supposed to go out and kill that virus and flush it out of your system. Well, in the process, there's lots of inflammation that cause your nose to swell and become painful. There's fluid leaking from all that vasculature. You can't breathe as good, and your nose is running, and we all know it's a big mess, and it's not very comfortable. So what do most people do? Well, they haven't met us yet. They haven't met Reboost yet. So most folks go and get some over-the-counter nasal decongestants that have pseudoephedrine that stimulate like an adrenaline response, and they kind of give you a high. They become very addictive. There are other anti-inflammatory nasal sprays that basically what they do, vasoconstriction, it just means it really, really tightens up your vasculature and closes things. It's anti-inflammatory, so your nose is inflamed and swollen shut. You take this stuff, it works very well because it opens you up. You can breathe better. You feel better, right? Well, the problem with doing that is a couple things. That inflammatory response is supposed to happen. That's natural. That's what your body's doing. So when you suppress it, you're suppressing a lot of nice immune system that lives in your sinuses. In your mucosal lining inside of your sinuses, you have kind of your first defense mechanism. There's lots of immune cells that live in there and that are ready for invaders. When somebody sneezes in your face or you breathe in something on an airplane or whatever, that's your first line of defense. Well, if you're suppressing that with these medications, you're reducing that system's ability to respond. You get more upper respiratory infections. You also can atrophy that mucosal lining, which is very, very bad. Your sense of smell lives up there. We certainly want to be careful with that. Another thing that happens with these over-the-counter nasal sprays is when you run out, all of a sudden your sinuses slam shut and they're worse than they were before. That's called a rebound effect. So remember that rebound effect because that's pretty important, very common. That's why people kind of get hooked on these things too. Well, so what should we do, you ask, with these symptoms that we just discussed? Well, I thought that you would never ask, but I'll show you an idea, and that idea is called Reboost from Heel. Reboost does not block those natural processes that we just talked about that are so important. It does help with the symptoms. It does make you more comfortable, but we do it without blocking things, and we do it with extremely rare side effects. So what we've got here are 4 products. We're going to cover nasal congestion, sore throat, different types of coughs, and the actual feeling of being sick when you have all the body aches and fatigue. All of these products, we'll kind of touch on it as we go, but all of them have a very, very good safety profile. Extremely rare side effects. We say rare because it's very rare. We're not allowed to say none just because of regulations and any reports we have to document. So we're talking less than 1% though. All right, so first up, and the most popular dosage form, and this is the one that you actually have samples of, this is the Reboost nasal spray. It's a phenomenal formula. Hopefully by now you've tried it out. Actually, I hope that you never need it. I hope that you're so healthy that you never have any of these symptoms and you'll never need to use this product. But let's be honest, it's cold and flu season, and most of us are going to catch something at some point, and most of us are going to have these types of symptoms. It's a very common symptom category with the head discomfort in your sinuses, nasal congestion, sinus headache and pressure, and all of the other symptoms that come with cold and flu. Now, what's really nice about this, there's no drug-drug interaction, which means if you're currently taking other pharmaceuticals, it's okay to add this. It doesn't cause drowsiness, and there is none of that rebound effect that we discussed, which means you can just use it as needed. If you need it for a couple days here and there, that's fantastic. If you need it for the whole month, that's okay too. You don't have to, the dosage is all in the package, but it's very flexible. Let's take a look at the formula real quick. I'm going to pull out a couple key ingredients because I want to drive the point home about our founder formulating these combinations were very strategic formulas to work at different, kind of hitting different targets to alleviate these symptoms, which is quite literally why our products work so well. The first ingredient, argentum nitricum, that's silver nitrate. That's what they put in your eyes when you're born as a wee baby. That's also what they spray on shrimp out on shrimping boats. So in that capacity, it's a very antiseptic ingredient. In a homeopathic dilution, it relieves nasal itching. You see euphorbium. This product actually used to be called euphorbium years and years ago on our practitioner division. That's that cactus-looking picture you see on the right. That's got lots of nasal, nose, and sinus indications. It's been used for decades, if not probably a century or so, on those types of conditions. Got a couple other ingredients here for nasal soreness. Loofah is for nasal congestion. Loofah is typically used during allergy season in a lot of our allergy products. So you can see we're not just working, we're working at multiple different angles to help alleviate these symptoms. Got a couple more ingredients here for sinus pain, sinus headache, because that's a rough one. I mean, your sinuses can really put you on the couch feeling miserable, right? Pulsatilla is that little purple flower you see there, and pulsatilla has lots of use for runny nose and running, eyes and mucosal related type things. So we've got an ingredient there for sinus congestion too. Excellent, excellent formula. On to the next one, Reboost tablets. So our Reboost tablets, this is the product that you want to keep around for when you're actually sick. This is for the symptoms that put you laying on the couch watching reruns of Friends all day when you're sick because you don't feel good enough to do anything else. Body aches, fatigue, headache. There's no ingredients in here that cause drowsiness or any other side effects. Let's look at the formula real quick. So aconitum is the first ingredient. That's that purple flower in the picture. It's a beautiful flower. It grows on a stalk, so that's a really close-up image. It kind of looks like a delphinium or something if any of you are familiar with flowers. Very beautiful, but if you made a salad out of it with some balsamic, it would make you very, very sick. However, we just learned that the dose determines the poison, and in a homeopathic concentration like this, a homeopathic dilution, it's a very good analgesic, which means it relieves pain, so it can help your headache. Bryonia is good for the body aches. Eupatorium helps with headache, body aches, sensitive skin, when you're just very, very uncomfortable. All these ingredients work on that. Got lachesis for certain types of coughs, and phosphorus for that deep down fatigue when you are sick, and also a couple days after you're sick. A lot of times you have that deep fatigue still. All right, so that's our Reboost tablets. You see we named all these Reboost, and we've updated the packaging. It's to make it very easy to shop for. We've got big call-outs on the package for throat and body and cough and sinus. It's a really good-looking packaging that we just redid that we're very proud of. So the throat spray is pretty self-explanatory, right? I love this product, though. A couple things about it. The packaging is very user-friendly, meaning the bottle itself. It's a little glass bottle, and it has a nozzle on the side that you rotate so that you can make the nozzle horizontal while keeping the bottle vertical. And what that gives you is that you can aim it and shoot it directly in the back of your throat, right? It's very well thought out package. Aside from that, again, pretty self-explanatory. Use it for sore throat. But what's a really nice perk about this product is it also works on canker sores. So what do you usually do for canker sores? Well, there's not much, right? You got to take tons of lysine and maybe put some numbing stuff on there. Well, now you've got something else from the natural world. In fact, this product, every ingredient in here is all natural. And you can spray it directly on canker sores and help with that discomfort. Here's the formula. So the first ingredient is Apis mellifica. That actually is a bee. If you get stung by a bee, it hurts. It causes pain. So if you could take that in a, like cures like, the dose determines the poison kind of approach in homeopathy, it would relieve pain. And that's why it's in here, because your throat hurts. Asclepius vincetoxicum is this little white flower. This is a fascinating flower. This has over 100 active alkaloids in it. You could read paragraphs on your own time about what this flower is used for in homeopathy. But in this formula, at this concentration, it's great for sore throat pain. Now the next three you'll see, belladonna, calendula, and echinacea. They are all there to relieve pain. That's a pretty generic statement on the package. Couple reasons why. There's only so much room on these drug facts box. You can't put paragraphs and paragraphs about each individual flower. But just know that these are all working in slightly different ways at slightly different targets to relieve that throat pain. It's more is better, right? Phytolacca, that's our canker sore ingredient. So that's the one that will help with that. And Plantago is really good for sore throat pain. And Salvia is sage. Sage is a very powerful plant. You know it from cooking. It's got some herbal applications, and in homeopathy it's also very powerful for tickling cough. A very dynamic plant, though. There's lots to be learned about sage, I think, in the future. And it's in this formula already, and it works great. Last but certainly not least is our cough syrup. I love our cough syrup because it's a perfect example of why Dr. Reykjavik became somewhat disenchanted at using one single ingredient to treat his patients. The reason for that is coughs are a really good example of how it's tricky to get it right. There's tickly cough, croupy cough, barky cough, rattly cough, sticky cough, dry cough, wet cough. And that's just to name a few. If you don't get the exact right ingredient that matches that cough, nothing happens, right? So you or your family or you're disappointed in the result of that. So it seems to be, from years of working with this product, that this formula just so happens to hit most types of coughs. The results with this product are very, very good, and the odds of you getting relief are very, very high. It tastes good, too. It's like a honey flavor. It's a natural honey flavor. Let's look at the ingredients real quick. Again, you're going to see almost all of them just say the same thing, but know that they're working at different angles on different types of cough. Antimonium is for that kind of rattly, nasty congestion that you get. Drosera is that plant at the top left corner. That's a carnivorous plant. It actually has those sticky fingers that'll catch bugs and eat them, and it's used for croupy, it's used for croupy, barky types of coughs. Ipecac is when you cough so hard that you're puking, et cetera, et cetera. So you see that we cover different angles to try to be very, very comprehensive so that you literally only need one bottle. More importantly, you don't need to memorize really anything that we just covered. This is all just to be interesting for you. But all you need to know is that if the Heel product says cough on it, all the homework has already been done. You can grab that product and use it for cough. You don't need to remember all these ingredients and all the history and all that. I do hope that it was exciting and that you're having as much fun as I am. So why do we do this? Well, the reason we use multiple ingredients of this, what Dr. Reykjavik found, more seems to be better, especially when they're carefully selected synergistic ingredients that even in theory can help the next ingredient work. Another way to think about it is if we've got a dartboard and we're trying to hit the target, you have one person throwing one dart, or you have 10 people throwing 10 darts, your likelihood throwing more darts, it's more likely that we're going to hit that target, right? So it's kind of the same approach in some regards using these formulas that are combined that way. It increases the odds that they're going to work for you. It doesn't make them any more dangerous or less safe or anything, so that's fantastic. That's why it's so nice to talk about these and use them. Okay, so here's one more little thing to think about. Reboost is our cold and flu line. This is a cold and flu training, but their products are not just for cold and flu season. If you have a cough because of environmental irritants, well, a cough is a cough. You could use the cough syrup even if it was in July. If you have sinus symptoms, the sinus headache or the congestion or whatever the case may be in April from allergies or from some other reason, well, those symptoms are those symptoms. You can still use the Reboost nasal spray. So it's not to say only if it's cold and flu caused by a virus or something like that. Those symptoms are always the same, and you can use the same products for them. So think about that year-round as you keep this stuff in stock in your house. In summary, I think we've demonstrated that we've got multiple products, and in those products we've got ingredients that work on multiple symptoms. You don't have to worry about being drowsy or hungover, having medicine head and all that stuff. Extremely rare side effects, lots of different choices. Remember that we don't block the body's natural processes. We support them, which also is kind of the main underlying reason that this is a safer approach. And most of them have many ingredients that are found in our natural world that are minimally processed and so forth. So try Reboost, enjoy it, do it because I said so. I'm just joking. Even if you didn't believe me and you didn't believe anything we covered, I went out to Amazon this morning and just Googled Sinusin, or typed in Sinusin, which is what this product was called before it was called Reboost. I didn't even cherry pick. There's 43 different reviews. These are like the first 5 or 6 that I glanced at, and these are just the titles. I only put the titles in here because the reviews themselves were so long. They're like paragraphs of people gushing about how well this works. So I'm flattered that how easy it is to find other people that have used these products and had good success with them, and I'm 100% confident that you will too. At that, we can get into the Q&A. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Jamin. That was such a great presentation, and we definitely have a lot of questions coming in for you. So the first question we have is from Susan, and she's wondering where in stores is Heel Reboost nasal spray available?
Well, so it's an interesting time for us. Typically, we're going to be in the natural stores, so whatever you have in your area, there's Whole Foods and Sprouts are some of the bigger names, Vitamin Cottage. It just depends on your region. But whatever you would kind of think of as a health food store, that's our biggest, that's where we're most popular. We just did a rebranding where we changed all of our cold and flu products to that Reboost name. They used to be all called individual products, which is kind of from our practitioner heritage, and they were hard to shop for. So the reason I kind of give this lengthy answer, you might still see it because we just did that at the end of this summer, that repackaging. You might still see it called Sinusin, S-I-N-U-S-I-N, Sinusin nasal spray. Sinusin nasal spray and Reboost are exactly the same thing. Reboost is just a new name, new package that's easier to shop for. But some stores might still have it called Sinusin. But by now, we're pretty much in the natural areas, and it'll be in the cold and flu section.
Okay, great. We have a question from Helen, who's wondering if she can't find it in the stores, can she buy it online?
Yes, there are a number of online retailers that carry our products. Anybody from Vitacot, all the big names. We're pretty, especially the nasal spray, we have very good distribution.
Okay, great. We have a question from a mom ambassador who's wondering what makes your company a better choice than other similar homeopathic companies?
Well, we can't, I mean, I would love to say that we're better, but it's not very polite to do that because there are lots of great companies. We're not alone in the combination approach. We have very well thought out formulas. You know, Reykjavik as kind of the maverick that was one of the first doctors to start combining these formulas, worked his whole entire life on picking ingredients that work together and that work very well. And what we found in the last, 77 years worldwide and 30-plus years here in the United States is that they do work well. So the combinations were well selected. So it's hard for me to say, we're better, we're deeper acting, we're more comprehensive. Aside from being polite, it could get us into trouble potentially to say that. So I love our stuff. I'm confident recommending it. I have, as our company's trainer, done lots and lots of research on other companies' formulas, and some of them do not work on as many different angles as Heel does. Heel does seem to be more complex in some formulas. So I don't know. That's a tough one to really answer directly, but I hope that.
Yeah, that answered it. We have a question from a mom ambassador wondering if the Reboost nasal spray is appropriate for children and how old should they be to start taking it?
Excellent question. So the best answer is always going to be on the box. As I mentioned, we're regulated as a drug, and as such, we have drug facts, and they're very, very thorough. So what we have is standard dosage in adults is considered 12 years and older, and then children from 4 years to 11 years, it's perfectly fine to use this product. And once we get below 4 years, we ask that you consult your healthcare provider. Okay. Was she asking what the dosage was or just the ages?
The ages.
Okay, cool. So 4 and up, it's at your own discretion as a consumer to buy this and use it. Below that, as a company, we have to ask you to talk to your doctor.
Okay, great. We have a question from Suzanne, who's wondering if you get instant relief from this product, or does it have to be used over a period of time before you get relief?
The way that these formulas work is different for everybody. I mean, we know that these formulas, we do have a majority, which is why we see the good results and the positive reviews, that it does seem to work on most people who try it. But I've seen it all over the board in my personal experience and talking to doctors and consumers and retailers. Some people are very responsive. These are the people that could have a quarter cup of coffee and be up till 2 o'clock in the morning wired. Other people are not very responsive. So everybody responds not just to homeopathy, but to any substance differently. Generally speaking, it seems like because these are set up to help manage symptoms, like the sinus symptoms, it's not something you got to use for a month before you notice. It can give you fairly quick relief.
Okay, great. We have another question coming from Ashley, who's wondering, when you take Reboost nasal spray, do you need to take it more than once a day, or how long does the dose typically last for?
Well, and that's the beautiful part about using a product that's not like an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory is there's no limits on it. So if you used it once and you were fine for 8 hours, that's awesome. Now, if you weren't responding, we do have acute dosage or dosing where you can use one spray every 30 minutes to an hour until symptoms lessen. We call it kind of like a loading dose. So if you're really having a rough day, you could take it as often as every half an hour until you start to get some relief. And then after that, you just switch over to the regular dosage, which is, again, kind of as needed. It could be 3 to 4 times a day. It could be that you only need it 1 day a week.
Okay, great. We have a question from Melissa, who's wondering what the shelf life of the products are.
The shelf life on I think all of these, let me just double check. I know our nasal spray, throat spray, I just need to double check the cough syrup. Okay, so cough syrup is 3 years.
Oh, great.
Everything else is 5 years. So any of these Reboost products that you buy right now, you've got until 2018. The Reboost cough syrup is good until 2016, and that's just our current batch. Obviously, that's a moving target that's just going to get further out.
All right, great. We have a question from Jennifer, who's wondering if Reboost nasal spray is safe to take while on other medications.
It is, and we can say that very quickly. There are no drug interactions, which that's exactly what that means. It's safe on with other medicines.
Okay, great. We have a question from Rochelle, who's wondering, is there any risk to pregnant or breastfeeding moms while taking the Reboost nasal spray?
Excellent question. Now this one we have to answer extremely, we do everything legally, but I can't give you any other answer other than how the products are regulated, which the FDA defines these drugs as what's called Category C. And Category C just means that there have not been studies done on pregnant women. So there's no data for us to say that you can. We haven't done a study on Reboost nasal spray on pregnant women to have that data to say, yes, it is safe. So from there, you have to talk to your own doctor or make your own decision. But that's as much as we can comment on Category C, which is how we're regulated.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. We have a question from Pam, who's wondering if any of the Reboost products need to be refrigerated.
No.
Okay, great. We have a few questions coming in, just wondering if there's any consistent side effects if you start using this product on a regular basis.
No. The side effects that we do have documented are extremely rare, and it could be that somebody was hypersensitive to one of the flowers or something like that. But there's not going to be a side effect that develops. Like, maybe people are thinking of an anti-inflammatory drug where after 10 days it can start to impact your stomach lining or do liver damage or something like that. That's kind of what we're all used to hearing. It is not the case with these. There wouldn't be a time-related side effect develop.
Okay, great. And I think you may have gone over this before, but just a refresher for a few moms, just to make sure that it's not habit-forming or addictive.
It is not.
Okay, great. And then as a company, a few mom ambassadors are wondering, what are some other products that Heel produces besides the Reboost line?
Well, our most popular product, in fact, I'm betting that a good part of our team today has seen it, is called Trameal. Trameal is for pain, mostly. It's our pain product. It's really great to keep in your kids' soccer bags, and I keep the samples of it in my glove box, in the cars, in the boat, in the camping gear. I keep it everywhere because it's just one of those products that you can, anytime somebody gets an injury or bumps themselves or whatever, it works very, very well. It's a combination, 14 different ingredients, homeopathic, of course, all the great safety stuff that we just talked about with Reboost, but works amazingly well. And then we've also got our allergy line. There's a nasal spray, a tablet. We covered that last year together for those of you who were with us. But we've got, different categories. We've got Trameal for pain, Reboost for cold and flu. Next year from us, you'll see what's called Clear Life, which is for allergies. And then there's a product line called Norexan now. We're in the middle of repackaging these things. So Norexan is a weird name that's hard to find. We're calling it, in January, Wellmind, which is an easier to shop for name and a beautiful package. And there's a product in that line for stress and sleep, and tension relief, rather. So kind of every category, right? Cold and flu, allergies, pain, sleep.
Yeah, that's great. So you're mentioning, a couple new products coming up, and some mom ambassadors are wondering, what's the best way to stay informed about the new products? Should they keep in touch with your website or your Facebook, or what's the best way to stay tuned?
I would say both. We're updating our main Heel USA website actually as we speak. We're updating that to show some of our new packaging, our new brand names. Our Facebook, we'll keep the updates out there, so you know that Reboost is called Reboost now and not Sinusin, etc. And that would be a good place to track us to see what's going on, because all these formulas are wonderful and they're not changing. We're just updating the packaging and the names. So it would be a good idea to follow us.
Okay, great. Question from a mom ambassador who's wondering if she doesn't see Heel at a retailer she typically shops at, what do you recommend? Should she talk to the store manager? Is there anything she can do to try to get Heel in her store?
Yeah, definitely. I would talk to, it depends on what type of store it is. Some of these big, huge corporations, it's a lengthy process to get products submitted. If you're in a natural store, and let's say you're going for the throat spray, which we've just rebranded, maybe they don't have it or they haven't heard of it yet, but you know it exists, they'll definitely special order it for you. If they already carry like Trameal or something, they have access to the rest of the line, and they can, most of them are happy to take special orders.
Okay, great. Mom ambassador is wondering, do you ever offer any coupons or discounts, and if you do, where would she be able to find them?
Excellent question. In fact, I was supposed to mention it and I forgot. Well, right now everything's on sale nationwide. We do quarterly promotions with our retailers. We're mostly natural at this point, so you won't find Reboost at Walgreens yet. You're going to find it at your natural stores, your health food stores. And right now it should be pretty consistent that we are on sale across the country for the month of October. Other than that, we'll have quarterly promotions in your natural stores that are like season specific. So in March you'll see an allergy promotion. In September we have like, you know, tension relief and concentration, and we kind of do different categories like that. As far as coupons and online things, it's something that we're definitely researching and going to experiment with. So yeah, you might see some coupons from us in the near future.
Okay, great. We have a mom ambassador who joined a little late, and she was wondering if you could just re-explain the rebound effect again, what exactly that is.
Okay, so rebound effect is what happens when you take the like anti-inflammatory nasal sprays, and it's typically, picture anything at the drugstore, right? You know, you go to that section. I'm not going to really name names, but I think we've all seen them. They're just nasal sprays for sinus pain and swelling and things like that. Well, they're very anti-inflammatory and or antihistamine, and they make your vasculature basically slam shut and constrict. It reduces the inflammation so you can breathe. And they work very, very well. They work so well that people get addicted to them. But what happens is you're congested and you snort that stuff, it opens you up very, very quickly. But as soon as that effect wears off, for some reason your immune system or whatever compensates, and when it wears off, you're actually more plugged or more swollen or more closed up than before. Your sinuses slam shut worse than they were before you took the medicine. So it's kind of like, well, now I have to keep taking it or else I'm going to be worse off, and it's a slippery slope from there.
Okay, thanks for going into detail on that. We have a question from Tina, who's wondering where the Heel headquarters are based, and if you guys ever do tours of the factory or where you produce the items.
Okay, so our mother company is in Baden-Baden, Germany. That's where it all began back in the late 30s. Here in the United States, our subsidiary is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So if you're ever out this way, it's beautiful. Big blue skies, hot air balloons, all that, you know, green chili and spicy food and all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, our facility is awesome. It's and we do actually offer tours. You would just need to contact us. I would say through Mom's Meat over to your Heel contact here, and we can certainly, if you're in the neighborhood, we can work on that.
Okay, great to know. Thank you. We have a question from Ashley, who's wondering, do you have any products specifically for kids, or do you have plans to gear any products specifically to kids in the future?
Well, we have, you know, for the most part, when you look at our labels, we'll have kids' dosage, as we kind of covered on, I think it was the nasal spray or whatever, 4 and up. You know, you'll kind of see that on the packaging. As far as under that age, we don't have in retail like a dedicated kids line right now. We are certainly interested. It's just, again, being regulated as a pharmaceutical. It's a lot more. How do I say? I guess it's just a lot more work. I don't want to say risk. It takes more attention to launch a children's line than we've. You know, our attention right now is focused on rebranding all of our current, you know, packaging and all that stuff. So I would say yes, we're interested in the future, but at the moment we don't have a dedicated kids formula.
Okay, great. So we have a few more questions here, and then we're going to wrap up for the day. So someone was wondering if the Heel Reboost line causes drowsiness at all.
It does not.
Okay, great.
Yep, no worries about
that. Okay, and is the Heel Reboost line all natural?
Okay, so we had it kind of highlighted in some of the slides there, and it is highlighted on the packaging. This is a great question. The ingredients, we have noted which ones we can call all natural and which ones we don't call all natural. And just to give you a little bit more insight, like when you look at the throat spray, all of those ingredients we can call all natural. They're just from plants and minerals. They're minimally processed, which allows us to say that they're all natural. And the cough syrup, I think it was 5 out of the 8 ingredients or something like that, or that was the nasal spray, 5 out of 8. We can call them all natural. It's not to say that the other ingredients aren't natural. It's just that sometimes the way that substance needs to be processed in order to be used as a homeopathic due to its own handling and processing rules. It's now processed beyond the point where you can say it is all natural, because we've changed it and we've distilled it down or whatever we've done. So, but the ones that on the packaging say all natural, those are literally all natural.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Jamin.
Thank
That
you.
was such a great presentation, and thank you for answering everyone's questions. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to say I'm flattered that there were so many questions. I mean, the worst thing that happens is you do a training and nobody has any questions, which means either everybody understood it or you were very boring. So thank you all for taking your time. Again, we love working with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, great. Well, everyone attending, thank you again for your time. And to the Mom Ambassadors sampling Heel Reboost Nasal Spray, we're really looking forward to your feedback. So we're going to go ahead and log off now. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.